a man who says the game has changed and you're, quote, shit out of luck if you don't change with it. And in his new book, Not Taught, What It Takes to Be Successful in the 21st Century That Nobody's Teaching You, Jim tells us what he's learned from his decades of experience and most recently the massive shift in the way we communicate. I'm your host, Mark Fidelman, managing partner of Fanatics Media. And let's get started. Jim, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's rock and roll.
All right. So, Jim, if we Googled your name, what would we see?
Wow. I think the whole first page, which is kind of a big deal because Jim Keenan, unfortunately, is a pretty popular name, especially on the East Coast, is James Maynard Keenan, who I think is the lead singer of Tool. Then there's a Boston University professor. So there's all kinds of other people, but you run Jim Keenan, I think you're going to get them all. It's going to be around sales, a sales guy, my Twitter account, my LinkedIn account. I'm owning my name as best I can.
Okay, wonderful. So nothing surprising if we Googled your name, huh?
You know, maybe on the 4th or 5th or 6th page, but no one goes that far.
All right. So, Jim, tell us why you wrote the book.
Well, you know, I wrote the book because I realized things had changed. And I'll try to make this quick, but it was all happenstance. Like I didn't wake up one day, I'm going to write a book, and 6 months later I had a book. A friend had asked me to speak to a class at University of Denver in Denver. And it was a master's or graduate class. And so I said, well, what do you want me to write about? He said, well, tell them what they should expect when they graduate. So that one question forced me to sit down and take a look at what these kids are going into. And as I started building my presentation, I realized, holy crap, it's a different world than when I graduated. I mean, wow, there's so many different things going on. And so because of that, I started to realize, whoa, there's more here than people realize. And I was never told this, and these kids aren't being told this, and this professor's not telling them this. And so that giving motion to give created the baseline for this. And then as I asked, why are they different, it struck me. And basically, it's different now because we've transitioned from the industrial age to the information age. And anytime you have a major societal shift like that, the rules to participating, functioning, and playing in that new world change from the old world.
Now, Jim, I've done a lot of research on this. Do you think universities are teaching millennials all this stuff? And we'll get into what that stuff is, but all these new rules for this new economy, this new information age? You think they're teaching it now?
Look, I haven't gone out to every school and sat down and see if they have something. But if I'm going to guess and do the let me pick it out of the sky, the answer is no. I have no evidence, right? No anecdotal evidence that suggests they are. There's no social programs. There's no branding program. There's no reach program. There's no selling program. So all the things that you need to do, I don't see the school teaching any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, which is exactly why I think anyone that's a millennial or just getting out of college should read his book. There's a lot of great stuff in it, and we're going to cover some of it today. But if you want to, see everything, you'll want to pick up a copy of his book. It's on Amazon. So, Jim, tell us why you have the experience and the knowledge to write this book. Why you?
Well, I guess partially because I lived it, right? So by accident, I talk in the beginning of the book, I'm no prognosticator. I didn't all of a sudden say, hey, look at me, I've got all this wonderful wisdom and I'm a freaking expert. I woke up to it. So I started a blog in 2009 about sales. I started that blog because my career went so fast. I went from a single individual sales guy selling $500 memberships to a chamber to running a $300 million line of business for a CLEC with 150 reports in less than 4 years. In 3 years, I did that. So when it came time to competing with my peers for the same level of job, I've got like a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old resume competing with guys who've got 10, 15, 25 years. I couldn't do it, and I got frustrated, so my career started to peak. So I said, I got an idea. This is in 2009. I'll start a blog. And I'll blog every day about the trials and tribulations of running sales teams and growing sales teams and making them work. And if I ever need a job in the future, I'll just write on the blog, hey, I'm looking to change careers. Anybody interested or something like that? And the thought was, hey, I might have a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 readers. but that's pretty good. They could help me find a job faster. Little did I know 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 and beyond readers per month were starting to reach out and saying, hey, we have this problem. Do you do consulting? And that's how my consulting business kicked off. So really the expertise comes from stumbling into it and watching how it made my entire existence change. And everything I am today, this blab, this book, my business, everything came from the stuff that I talk about.
Yeah, and we've dealt with one another and we've worked together on a couple of different projects, and it's so true. I mean, what you're able to do today without, traditional media and traditional marketing is just phenomenal. You really move the needle. So I'm really happy that you wrote this book and are sharing some of your secrets and your bluntness about what people should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. I'm impressed that you were able to use some of the language that you use to get your point across. It really does help. It kind of hits them in the head with, if you don't do this, you're not going to be that employable in the future. No,
look, it's not just me either. Mark, you've done it. You've got an amazing Udemy channel. You write for Forbes. You didn't go to school to be a journalist. At least I don't think you did, right? But here's where you are. So you leverage this concept. You wrote a book, leveraging this approach. One of my favorite examples of this, and it's funny, I get compared to him all the time, is Gary Vaynerchuk. Look, this guy was a 24-year-old kid working at his dad's tiny little freaking liquor store in East Bumwick, New Jersey, and he started creating this little wine library show, and he did 800 episodes over 3 years, and that blew him up, and it blew up his dad's wine company went from like $2 or $3 million with all this inventory, and I'm sure the profit margins were minuscule, to this giant online $60 million a year business. Guys, what Vaynerchuk did was impossible in the industrial age. Listen to me. It was impossible. So that's what this is about. There are so many opportunities now that you didn't have or our parents didn't have it if someone will tell you and wake your butt up to start leveraging them. So that's what it was. So it's not just me. I mean, the list is long in raw numbers, but tiny in the terms of all the people out there and the 300 million people in America and the 7 billion across the world.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, and I want to get into this a little bit more later on, but you're basically, your premise is everybody's got to do what you and I have done in order to be more relevant in the future. I mean, do you see a potential issue there in that if we're all as, vociferous as you and I are, that it's going to get incredibly noisy? And then how do we rise above that noise?
Of course it's going to get noisy, but here's the cool part. There's the long tail, right? The long tail plays an effect here. It's going to get noisy in your space, but it's still not that noisy. So get out and own your space, right? When I did this in 2009, I'm sure there were a bunch of sales blogs. I didn't really think I was all that good, but whether because it was less competition or maybe my style, but people started picking up and following me, and I was competing within sales blogs, right? So whether we like it or not, whether it's going to get busy or not, whether it's going to get crowded or not, isn't the point. The point is you have to carve out a niche and be found and be respected and acknowledged online in the 21st century. This idea of what I call digital obscurity is going to be the death it's going to be the plague of the commoner. Look, we Google everything, right, Mark? People Google everything. So if someone comes in contact with you, whether it's for a first-time date, whether it's for a job, whether it's for a promotion, whatever it is, they're going to Google you. And right now, if they can't find you, that freaks people out. When they can't find something, like, what's wrong with this person? Even if it's just a LinkedIn page, they don't find you, you're hosed. And then if they don't find you, don't get good information, then you're lost. If they don't find you with good information and you have a lot of connections, you're hosed. So you have to, crowded or not, you have to fight in this space. Because the alternative is death. The alternative is death.
But I mean, how do people learn to become interesting? Because there's so much noise out there. And I'm not saying I'm the most interesting person by a long shot, but I just find that a lot of people are they're putting out boring content. They're boring themselves. They're boring the rest of us because maybe they don't know what we all enjoy, or maybe they're not as gregarious as you are or Gary Vaynerchuk is. I mean, how are we going to get the masses to become more interesting?
Oh my goodness. This is a very interesting point because it's going to sound contradictory because I have a section here said don't be boring. But more importantly than your personality or my personality or Gary's, in my opinion, is moot. I say what's most important is your ability to educate, to teach, to challenge, to inspire. You don't need to be some giant personality to do that. What you need to do is be an expert. And we should have been experts a long time ago. Instead, most people defaulted to experience. And I talk about this in the book, experience versus expertise. Hey, check me out. I've been doing something for 25 years. I'm great. No, you're not, because you're not really that good at what you do. You just figured out how to hang on for 25 years and count that experience to get you jobs. In today's world, they want expertise. And if you want to stand out, the more you know, the greater your level of expertise you bring to the table, the more people will be drawn to you because they want to learn. The information age is about learning. It's about knowledge. It's about data. So whether you're an accountant, you're about social selling, whether you're a knitter, whether you're a supply chain expert, whether you're you own a shop, you know what I'm saying, a mechanic's shop, I don't care. Just start teaching people about what it is you know and how freaking good you are, and people will follow you. I promise you.
Okay. So Jim, you do talk a lot about, getting people to create their own reach, right? Which I find to be the most difficult thing. You could be very interesting. Your book could be fantastic, but if you don't have distribution, you don't have reach, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you want to get your message out, or your expertise or what you're teaching people. So how do you create that reach so that people learn more about Jim Keenan or about his expertise or your messaging? How's that done?
So the first thing you have to do is you have to create the content. So you have this expertise, you have to create content. So you can choose the medium, you can choose them all or some, but if you're a great writer, then start a blog, right? Someone asked, do you think you need a website for someone to find you? You don't need a website, but you have to have a web presence. So whether that's on Blab, whether that's a blog, whether it's LinkedIn Pulse, you have to have presence. It has to be dynamic. It cannot be static. Hear me there. A dynamic presence so people who come constantly can get new information. It can be a YouTube channel. I don't care what it is, but you have to start distributing your content. And then the second piece is you have to have a give attitude. You have to find other people who are in your space and start sharing their stuff, start sharing it with other people, highlighting them, and people will find you over time, little by little by little. If you're providing good information, you're creating content on a regular basis and distributing across these mediums, right? Podcast, video, blabs, blogs, I don't care, but create your content medium. If you do that, that reach will come. Give and create content, and it'll take care of itself.
Do you find any channels better for reach? It's probably context dependent, of course, but like for me, YouTube seems to be the channel with the most reach no matter what I look at. And not just because it's video, just because YouTube's the second most searched engine in the world. So no matter what you're searching on in Google, you're going to see a video if there's a video on YouTube, and chances are now with the billions of videos that are on there that you're going to find it. So do you recommend, how do you determine what channels people should be building their reach on?
Great question. I personally tell people, don't worry about the depth of it, if you will, because look, blogs, Twitter, LinkedIn, they all have massive audiences. So we're talking the difference between 100 million, 200 million, 300 million. What the hell? None of us are going to get 100 million followers, right? So it doesn't matter. What I say is ask yourself, what are you best prepared to leverage? So if you're articulate and you're good looking and you can really handle the video element, then go video, right? I mean, Vaynerchuk's done a great job leveraging the medium of video on YouTube. If you're a phenomenal writer and you just really can deliver the written word, then start a blog or write on LinkedIn Pulse. If you have a face for radio, but you got a great voice and you got really good way of drawing people out of conversations, of telling stories, then do a podcast. I don't think the medium matters as much as your ability to leverage that medium and crush it for you. Okay,
so you're finding where your audience is. You're finding the right channels and medium for you, and then that's where you're kind of building your reach and your expertise. And does that take a month? Does that take 2 years? How long does that take, Jim?
It takes forever. And that's the interesting thing about the 21st century. This is not something you start and then you say, oh, look, I've got it, and you end it, right? You need to get on Twitter. You need to get on LinkedIn. You need to get on Facebook. You need to start your own space of the world, whether it's, again, a blog or YouTube, whatever, and you need to start sharing. And I talk about frequency versus consistency, okay? Consistency is important. If you're going to blog once a month, once a week, once every day, I don't really care, but make sure you stick to it. And then if, as you get better, the more frequent you can do it, the better. But most importantly, consistency builds the audience over time. Frequency accelerates it. The more frequent you do it, the faster it goes. But here's the key, folks. You can't stop. You have to keep going. I've been doing this for 9 years. Wait, what are we in? 2009? Since 2006? 7 years, okay? And I am always creating content. And sometimes I get tired. I'm like, oh, my God, I got to do it again. But the minute you stop, you lose your relevancy. So just build it into your world. Build it into your process, and you're going to do just fine.
Does your book go into how people have done that? And can you give us some examples of reach and how they've converted it to, in my world, it's about reach turning to dollars. Now, I know that's not in everyone's world. There's many reasons for building reach, but converting reach into dollars for my audience is probably most important. So do you have any examples beyond Gary, who's a phenomenal case study on how to do this correctly, but beyond Gary that you could share?
So I talk about Chris Brogan in the book. Chris started blogging in 1999. He was way ahead of the curve, and now he's one of the most well-known social media small business celebrities there is. He has a phenomenal business where he helps out small business people. He provides online courses, et cetera. And he's done all of this through growing reach, right? He's done it the same way you've done. I reference you in the book. What I reference is the idea is, do you provide valuable information that helps people do their job better or get whatever it is out of life that you're saying you can help them with? That's the goal and that's the objective. And how you leverage that, whether you start creating pay-for content or just like me, I don't even think this has to be separate jobs, people. I'm not telling everybody to start making money. But if you're an accountant and you can do this and you can grow a following of 1,000 people, 2,000 people, the next time you need a job in accounting, the next time you need access to a controller, or God forbid, maybe the CFO at some company reads your article and reaches out and connects with you, you now have a much better path to success. You can request things. Look, reach is influence. How you leverage that influence is up to you and what works best for you. It's not always about starting your own business, right? I mean, it's just about creating influence and giving access. The more people you influence, the greater access you have, and access is where you become successful.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better case study than my world that I live in with my team, and that we deal with influential people, and these aren't like celebrities that you see on TV or the movies, but these are people that built up their expertise, as Jim says, that have, let's say, millions of followers on YouTube or hundreds of thousands on Instagram, and everything they put out is picked up by tens of thousands of people. And if they've got millions of subscribers on YouTube, their average viewership is 300,000-400,000 people every episode, or every video they put out. These people are bringing in a larger audience than most cable TV programs. And for them, I mean, I write big checks to these people in order to just talk about my clients. And I know not everybody watching this will want to do that, but even as Jim says, even if you're just the expert in your little niche, there are a lot of opportunities that will come up and be able to convert into dollars. Do you agree or disagree with anything, Jim?
Completely agree with everything you're saying. And what you're talking about is connectivity. We are actually connected more now than we've ever been connected before. I talk about this in the book briefly, and sometimes I wish I'd fleshed it out a little more. The access to people, influential people, is off the charts. And for the life of me, I wish I'd put him in this book, and I didn't, and his name's escaping me. There was this guy who used to, or does, write these inspirational sayings, and he had this blog, and he used to write all this inspirational stuff, and he tweets it all the time. Well, one of his tweets, his inspirational quote, somehow was seen by your girl, oh my gosh, one of the Kardashians, Kim Kardashian, who retweeted it. Boom! That was all it took.
Right.
Boom! That's all it took. And now he's been on Oprah, and his blog gets hundreds of thousands of viewers a day. Oh my gosh, we lost Mark. But that's what I will keep going. Can everybody still hear me? So the ability and access to people has completely changed. That connectivity has changed everything. So I know some people you sit there thinking, oh, well, this is about these people who want to go big. These people want to go big. Let me say it again. This is for success for everybody. For the person just getting out of college or high school to the person who's 55 and still isn't done with their career. If you start doing this, you could connect or have access or find yourself connected to the CEO of a company that you always were interested in, or the CEO of your competition, or the chief marketing officer, or the chief revenue officer, or the CFO. And these are the people you report to, or these are people you need to know to get the job you want. Or if you're a salesperson, to sell the product you want, right? So this isn't about all of that stuff. This is about getting connected in this connected world. That's what this is about.
Okay. A great question was asked by Kira Moore. She wants to know if there's any other metrics that you use to measure the success. So how do you know, as you're building a following, building reach, building connectivity, that you're on the right road? Or, in my world, it's, how do you pivot, or when do you know when to pivot so that you can get bigger reach, bigger connectivity, so on and so forth?
That's a great question. And I'm probably not the best at this, because as much as I love data, I'm not very good at collecting it. But what I do is, or for me, what I did was, the first thing I did is I started tracking the visits to my blog, right? My argument was, okay, if it's going up all the time, then somebody's liking something. Now, I didn't know where it was coming from, so that was the first one for me. Am I getting an increase in views? Now, those views always didn't translate into engagement, but to me, it was about the trend. And I won't bore you with the backstory, but I had an SEO gap that cost me 50% of my viewers. But up until that gap, I was growing every single month over month, year over year, exponentially. So regardless of that, of how engaged they were, that told me I'm doing something right. It just doesn't mean it was people just stumbling across me, right? The next one was Twitter mentions. That was more the engagement thing. Am I getting more people retweeting my stuff? Am I getting more people following my RSS feed? Am I getting more people doing more actionable things that said, I'm connecting to you? And another one I never really officially measured was how many times people were reaching out asking me for things. I mean, to be perfectly frank, the more popular my blog got, the more popular my YouTube channel got, the more well-known I became, the more people were asking me for stuff. So I was like, oh, I guess this is working. And then I guess the last one was access to people. When I got access to you, or to Forbes, or to Chris Brogan, or to many of these other people, that was also a sort of a measurement that it's working.
So what we tell people is, when you're first starting out, look at traffic, but then you want to make sure you got the right traffic. So is that traffic engaging with your blog, your video, whatever channel that you're on? And typically in this noisy world, I say, you got to hit a certain niche and topic for at least 3 months, if not longer, before you start to see much engagement, unless you're just a natural comedian or somebody that's got a lot of experience already, that is well known in the industry. But if you're just starting out, you got to be patient. But once you hit that 3 to 6 month threshold, and you got other influential people that are talking about you, you got engagement by people coming to your site, that's a good milestone, a good metric to go by. If that's not happening by 6 months, you're probably doing something wrong. And there's multiple reasons.
I would say that. I mean, for me personally, and I think this is probably why I kept going, all I wanted to know was, am I getting more readers? And am I getting more RSS subscribers? That's all I cared about. Whether they're engaged, I guess at the time I was too naive to know any better. But so I just kept going with that. And then, the other one was comments. Those are the 3 things I wanted. I wanted RSS subscribers, more views, and more comments. And as long as that kept going, I kept writing. Who was commenting? Who was viewing? I was less concerned, because I don't know. I just played a numbers game. You get enough people, enough of them are going to do what I do. Because I didn't want to be defeated either, right? Those were wins for me, in my opinion. Even if they weren't the perfect win, they were wins, and it kept me motivated to keep writing.
Perfect. So, Jim, we're at the half-hour mark. Can you tell us 3 reasons why people should buy your book? And I put a link on the right-hand side to his Amazon page. He's got only 5-star reviews so far. That's a very good sign, by the way, for an excellent book. But Jim, if you could just give us the top 3 things that we're going to learn by reading your book.
I think the first thing you should learn is I think too many of us have been entrenched in this idea of what it takes to be successful that was taught to us by our parents. It's reinforced in the school systems, and in many cases still reinforced in most aspects of life. If you don't spend any time in the social world, you're getting reinforced with the same stuff over and over. So if you want to know how the world is changing and what you can do to leverage it to improve your career or to strengthen your possibility and probability of success, that's one reason I want you to read it. I think the second reason is for your own personal development, right? If you're one of those people who just wants to get better at whatever it is you do, this book is going to help you do that, because this isn't just about social. The first 3 chapters really brush on or touch social, but there's a whole bunch more chapters that don't touch social, but tells you why what you're doing today and what you were taught by your parents, how to engage with people, how to solve problems, how to move through life, don't work in the industrial age. One of those is change. This idea that people take it slow and steady, don't try to change too much, just accept the change that come, is not going to fly in the 21st century. Things are going too fast. If you're not a change creator, then you aren't going to be in demand because things move too fast. And then the third one I would say is because I told you so. Because you want to be at the cool kids table. That's right. You don't want to be the guy that didn't read this. You don't want to be the girl that didn't read this. This is the cool kids table. Okay.
All right. Well, Jim, always a pleasure. This will be on Forbes.com, also our own website, and on YouTube. Those are the channels that I like to use to demonstrate to our clients and our readers, what great information that's out there and from experts like you, Jim. So we really appreciate it. Go out and get Jim's book. You will not be disappointed, not just because he's put me in it, but he's got some great ideas, great case studies. And if you follow in his footsteps, your career will get better. Thanks again, Jim. Appreciate it.
Amen. Thank you, baby. Appreciate it.